Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. All the material manifestations of the universes are therefore situated in His powerful material energies, which He accepts self-sufficiently, although He is eternally without affinity for the material modes. So without affinity for the material modes means without any attachment. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The question put by Narada before Brahma concerning the sustenance of the material creation is thus answered. Material actions and reactions, as the material scientist can superficially observe, a little dig there against the material scientists, Prabhupada put in. So material actions and practice reactions are not basically ultimate truth in regard to creation, maintenance, and destruction. The material energy is a potency of the Lord which is displayed in time, accepting the three qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance in the forms of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. The material energy thus works under the supreme spell of His Lordship, although He is always transcendental to all such material activities. A rich man constructs a big house by spending his energy in the shape of resources. And similarly, he destroys a big house by his resources. But the maintenance is always under his personal care. The Lord is the richest of the rich because He is always fully complete in 6 opulences. Therefore, He is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by His wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is due to lack of knowledge only. And this fact is clearly explained by Brahmaji, who is supposed to be the creator of the universal affairs. Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and his assertion in this connection is therefore the supreme information. So Narada Muni, he's one of our topmost traveling Sankirtan devotees. He's traveling all over the universe, preaching and bringing devotional service, bhakti, to the conditioned souls. But whenever he has some queries or some questions that he requires a greater depth of understanding, he always goes to Lord Brahma, who he accepts as his authority. And Lord Brahma accepts Sri Govinda as his authority. Everyone has an authority. So I can just give a little Prabhupada Leela in regards to this concept of authority. Just a little digression for a second. And that was January 1976 in Bombay. Prabhupada had arrived. And in those days, we were living in a little brick building, which was the temple. And behind that was a bamboo-thatched little hut, which was the kitchen. And Prabhupada had arranged for Sri Sri Radharasa Bihari Ji to come. And so they were installed in this little brick building. And Prabhupada offered his pranams, and he made this prayer: "My dear Lord, Sri Sri Radharasa Bihari, please don't mind that I'm putting you in this building which is not worthy of you. But if you agree to stay here, I promise you, I will build you a gorgeous temple." And he did. He built a gorgeous temple in Juhu, Bombay. So in January, this was much later, Prabhupada flew in because by that time there was a huge hole in the ground. They were putting in the foundation. If you were walking at night chanting japa and you weren't careful, boom, it was a gigantic hole. And they were putting in the foundation. So Prabhupada said, tomorrow morning after breakfast, 10 o'clock, I want everybody to come up to the BBT offices and we're going to have a meeting because Prabhupada wanted to fire up all the devotees to really get this temple finished on time. And not only the devotees, he wanted all the non-devotees working on the project to come also. The supervisors, the construction managers, the marble wallas, everybody. He wanted to fire them up. So that next day after breakfast, everybody came up to the second floor in the building at the back of the property that's no longer there. It's been smashed down. But in those days it was there. And Prabhupada began this meeting to fire everybody up. We have to finish this project on time. It's a very important project. Now, every day, by the way, there was a Bungi colony not far away from the temple. Nowadays, there's no Bungi colony because it's a very rich area. But in those days, there was. And this one lady used to come with her jaru and balti, come up the stairs and clean the BBT offices. And the devotee women would clean the next floor up, which was Prabhupada's quarters. So anyway, so she comes up, and she comes up to the landing, and the door is slightly ajar, and she looks in there, and she sees Prabhupada there, and all these people, and Prabhupada's preaching to them. So she just can't go in. So she just waits there, because she can't not do her seva, because she needs every single rupee she can get to support her family, because her husband was just drinking. She was doing nothing. She was supporting the family. This goes on a lot in India. It's even today. So anyway, Prabhupada's preaching, and then he turns and looks and sees through the door that's slightly ajar that the cleaning lady's there. And this was a very important meaning. And then Prabhupada said, okay, the cleaning lady has come. Therefore, we have to adjourn this meeting. He said, every living entity has their area of authority. And when the cleaning lady comes to clean, she is the authority. So the Jagat Guru got up to leave because the authority had come. The cleaning lady. This is the perfect example of Trinada Pisunichena, Taroriva Sihishnuda, Amanina Manadena. More humble than the grass, offering all respect to everyone else. So Prabhupada accepted it's her turn to clean, she's the authority. So this idea of an authority is very important. So Narada Muni, Lord Brahma, everyone in our parampara system accepts an authority. And whenever there are questions to be asked or instructions to be received, we go to our chosen authority. So here, Narada Muni, he always goes to Lord Brahma. Now why does he always go to Lord Brahma? There are so many authorities. Why does he go to Lord Brahma? Well, he explains he goes to Lord Brahma because Lord Brahma was there before the creation. Lord Brahma is known as the secondary creator. Krishna, or as Govinda, blows his flute, and the sound vibration of the flute enters into the ears of Lord Brahma, who's sitting on the top of the lotus doing tapasya, to try to understand, why am I here? What am I supposed to do? What is the situation? And the sound of the flute impregnates the heart and mind of Lord Brahma, how to do the creation. Therefore, he's known as the secondary creator. Just like, for example, when Prabhupada wanted the temple built in Juhu, the architect was my godbrother, Surabhi. Sorab, his name was Sorab Das, but then he took sannyas and became Surabi Rabi Palayantam Swami. So he had designed it. He was the architect. Now, he never laid one brick, he never polished one marble, he didn't pour any cement, but he gets the credit for building that temple. And everyone else is just a secondary creator, a builder. So similarly, Lord Krishna imparts the knowledge to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma creates, but he's the secondary creator. So all the knowledge of how to create comes from Krishna. So Narada Muni comes to Lord Brahma because he was here before the creation. So he knew what was going on before the creation, and he knew how the creation came into being because he was involved in it. So that's why he comes always to Lord Brahma. And he has a loving relationship with Lord Brahma. Father and son loving relationship. And so they have a very sweet lila together. So here, Narada Muni is asking different questions. And so the question that Narada Muni specifically placed before Brahma, that this verse is discussing, is concerning the sustenance of the material creation. So the sustenance means, how does it go on? How is it being maintained, kalpa after kalpa? So we create something in a moment by Rajagun energy. And we destroy things in a moment by the Tamaguna energy. But we maintain and sustain something over long periods of time by the Sattvaguna energy. So Lord Brahma is answering his questions, and he's speaking about Narayan. Now, the Narayan, he is the maintainer of all the material manifestations in all the universes. And he's the maintainer of all the material energies, the energies of creation, maintenance, and destruction. And although he is the Lord of everything, he is completely unattached to it. He has other things that he's concerned with, not the material manifestation. Now, the word Maya is used in this shloka. So we understand Maya to be not reality. There's reality, and then there's Maya, which is not reality. We define it as illusion. But Prabhupada has explained that what we should, if we want a deeper understanding, in the beginning we have a superficial understanding, and that's normal. Spiritual life is superior, material life is inferior. This is reality, spiritual life, material life is illusion. But the higher reality is that all of these energies come from Krishna. This material energy is also Krishna's energy. He also created this. It's known in Sanskrit as the Bahiranga Shakti, the external energy. And the spiritual energy is known as the Antaranga Shakti, the internal. And this Antaranga Shakti is known as a superior energy, and the Bahiranga Shakti is the inferior energy. But they're all energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the pure devotees, they don't see this material realm as illusion, as Maya. They see it as Krishna's creation, whereby spirit souls who need education, who need reformation, come to be reformed because they've gone off the path, to again come to the platform of Nitya Krishna Das Seva, Bhakti Seva. So that's why we're all here. We're all here today because we're in the path of being reformed to, again, our pure consciousness as servants of the Lord. We've given up that service to the Lord. We turned our back on the service to the Lord. And we were more interested in our own service, in our own benefit. And this was instilled in us by our parents, by our teachers, by society, by books, by films, by television, by the internet. It's complete brainwashing going on. And then here comes Prabhupada and says, you're all being brainwashed. Your spirit soul, you're not this body. And the goal of life is to realize your eternal identity and return back to your eternal home and enter into the Nitya Leela, the eternal pastimes of the Supreme Lord, with whom you have a loving, eternal relationship. So, the last time that Srila Prabhupada came here to Bhaktivedanta Manor was in 1977, in the summer of 1977. His health was not good, and he had hoped to do a tour, but his health became critical and he had to return back to India. But while he was here, he did give a few talks. One of those talks he asked, so have you understood the Bhagavad Gita? The devotee said yes. What are you going to say? No? So then Prabhupada said, what is the essence of Gita? What is the most important shloka? And at first people were afraid to raise their hand because if you said the wrong thing in front of Prabhupada, it wasn't very good. I'll tell you one thing, my whole life, I only said one thing in front of Prabhupada, and it was the wrong thing, and Prabhupada looked at me, and that was in 73, when I first came, and it was in Prabhupada's quarters. And thereafter, I had so many darshans with Prabhupada, so many classes, I never asked a question, never said anything. I just sat at the back and shut up and just listened. Shravanam. I learned Shravanam, then Kirtanam. So anyway, Prabhupada asked this question. And then finally devotees were giving some answers. Prabhupada said no, but then he gave the essence. And the essence is this, chapter 18, verse 66. If you understand this verse, you understand the process of bhakti yoga and the complete Krishna tattva. Sarva dharman parityaja mamekang sharanam vraja ahang tvang sarva papebhyo mokshayisyami ma suchaha. So let me explain it quickly. Sarva dharman parityaja. Parityaja, give up, abandon, reject all the dharmas. But Krishna spent most of the book talking about the dharma. You have to follow your dharma. Speaking to Arjuna, now he's saying, forget them, give them up. And Prabhupada explains why. He said, because these are man-made dharmas. These are dharmas relating to the material world, not to our eternal spiritual, eternal condition as spirit soul, in our loving eternal service to the Lord. And sometimes Prabhupada even called them, he said they were man-made dharmas but of this world, but he sometimes used the word and said concocted. These are concocted dharmas. So give them all up. And if you read that purport, Prabhupada talks about this. Prabhupada says in the purport that Krishna is giving all these dharmas that Arjuna has to follow, and now he's saying give them all up. And then what do you do instead? Mam ekang sharanam vraja. Make me number one. Mam, me, ekang, one. Sharanam, surrender and make me number one. That's the only dharma. Just forget everything else. Just make me number one in your life. And that's called Bhagavad Dharma, our eternal dharma. Mam ekang sharanam vraja. Vraja is a very interesting word. The word vrajana means touring, going on a tour. And for devotees, it means tirtha parikrama, touring to the different holy places. So while meditating on this verse, because Prabhupada said in his translation, wherever you go. So surrender to Krishna wherever you go. Make him number one in your life wherever you go. So I was meditating on this, and it came to me, a thought came to me, that if I go from one room to another room, I'm going somewhere. At first I was thinking if you go from one city to another city. But then I realized even if you go from one room to another, you have to make Krishna number one everywhere you go. And then I had a deeper realization given by Krishna that what that really means is surrender. Make Krishna number one every step you take. Because when you go somewhere, you're taking steps. Every step you take, you have to surrender to Krishna. So how did I implement that in my life? I had a couple of strategies. The first strategy was every time I went upstairs, I'd go Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare. I would surrender to the Lord every step I took. So I was constantly going up the stairs and down the stairs, and every step I took was the holy name of the Lord. Sometimes we'd visit some places and there were lifts, and I'd say, no, I'm going to walk up. Hare Krishna, because I was training myself. Surrender to Krishna every step I take. So then the next step, or the next process, the next level of training myself to surrender to Krishna every step I take, was when walking. Hare Krishna. Every step you take where you go somewhere. You're walking in the garden, or you're walking on the high street, you're going to the Sainsbury's to buy something, or Tesco. Every step you take, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Softly, just to myself. I'm not chanting loudly, Hare Krishna, that everybody can hear. I'm just trying to train my mind. Because we all love to make devotees. We all love to share this Krishna Tattva with others and make devotees. But the most important devotee you have to make is your mind. If your mind does not become a devotee, spiritual life will be a struggle. And if your mind becomes a devotee, if your mind becomes a Vaishnava, it's a piece of cake. You're coasting. It's just blissful. Keval Ananda Kanda. So we chant quietly and in the mind to purify the mind. So every step you take, you surrender to Krishna. Then what happens if you do that? You forget about the dharmas that have to do with this world, and you just surrender to Krishna every step you take. Then what happens? It's a deal. Krishna says, if you do this for me, I'm going to do something for you. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda Ki Jai. So what Krishna will do, if you do that, Krishna will say, Ahang Twang Sarva Papebhyo. I will take away all your sinful reactions. All your sinful reactions from the past, the present, and the future. Because in the heart, there are seeds of sinful reactions, sinful desires, that when you get to the future, you will commit those. So he's going to burn up those seeds also. Clean your slate. Ahang Twang Sarva Papebhyo. Not only that, Moksha Isyami, I'm going to bring you back home, back to Godhead. So you can enter into my Nitya Lila. If we do our part, Krishna does his part. Then he says, Masuchaha. Masuchaha means don't worry. Arjuna was in great lamentation and distress, full of worry, full of doubt. Because when he asked Krishna to pull the chariot out in front of the armies, and he saw grandfather Bhishma on the other side, Kripacharya, Dronacharya, his teachers, his grandfather, his friends, he said, Krishna, how can I kill these people? They're my family. They're the people I honor and respect. And then he said, I'm losing composure. My memory is being lost. My Gandiva bow is slipping from my hand. I cannot fight. And so Krishna has to spend the entire Gita to convince Arjuna to fight. So Masuchaha, don't worry about anything. And what does it mean, don't worry about anything? Don't have any doubts about anything. What does it mean when you say to someone, don't have any doubts? It means, trust me. The negative way of saying is, don't have any doubts. The positive way is saying, trust me. So Krishna's final instruction, surrender to me every step you take. I'll take care of you. Trust me. And that's when I realized that I didn't have any trust in Krishna. And that I had to develop trust. So the word Shraddha is sometimes translated as faith. But Vishwas is faith. In the Sanskrit language, the Bengali language, and even the Hindi language, Vishwas means faith, and Andha-Vishwas means blind faith. So Shraddha can mean faith, but actually it means trust. We have to trust the Lord. When our trust is weak, then it becomes faith. But when that faith becomes strong, then it becomes trust. We trust in the Lord. And who's the example who trusted the Lord in the most difficult situations when he was being attempted to murder him again and again and again? Who was that personality? Prahlad Maharaj, 5-year-old boy. He had complete, utter, 100% trust in the Lord. And the Lord always protected him. Finally, Hiranyakashipu said, I made so many arrangements to have you killed. He didn't want to kill him himself because I'm the father. He knew it was a sin to kill your own child, so he had others do it. But they couldn't do it. The snakes couldn't do it. The elephants couldn't do it. The fire couldn't do it. Boiling in oil couldn't do it. Throwing him off a cliff, he was always protected. So then he decided, I have to kill you myself. Because for him it was an embarrassment that my son is the worshiper of my enemy, Narayan, Vishnu, the Supreme Lord. I am supreme. So he chastised Prahlad, how dare you? I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill your Lord also. And where is he? He's hiding. Where is he? Oh, he's everywhere. He's everywhere? Oh, yes. So in the palace, there were different pillars. So he said, is he in this pillar? Oh, yeah. He's there also. So then Hiranyakashipu went up to that pillar, and with his fist, he struck it as hard as he could. And from that pillar, there emanated a sound that no one had ever heard before. And everyone in the palace became frightened. All the guards and soldiers, everybody became frightened by that sound. It was an unearthly sound. They'd never heard anything like it before. So then Hiranyakashipu drew his sword. So your Lord is in this pillar? Oh, yes, he's there. So with his sword, he smashed the pillar, and out came Lord Narasimhadev. And he was angry. Now, the Lord doesn't have to be angry to fight. In all the other leelas of the avatars, where like Varaha avatar or different avatars that are fighting the demons, when Krishna kills Shishupal, for example, he's cool, calm, and collected because he knows he can just defeat them with his little finger without trying. So why was Lord Nrsimhadev so angry? He was so angry because nobody, not one person, had tried to protect Prahlad when he was being tortured and killed, attempted murder. Not Lord Brahma, not Lord Shiva, nobody. And so he was angry. No one protected my devotee. And so he began fighting. And he wanted to honor the boons that Lord Brahma had given to Lord Narasimha, that Lord Brahma had given to Hiranyakashipu, that he couldn't be killed in day or night, inside or outside, by man or animal, by any weapon, like that. So many boons to cover every situation, not on the land, not in the air, so that he would become immortal. So Lord Nrsingadev fought with Hiranyakashipu, and while the sun was going down, so they fought, and the Shastra describes like a cat playing with the mouse. But as soon as the sun set, and was no longer day, and it was not yet night, then he grabbed him, and he went to the doorway. So he wasn't inside, he wasn't outside. And he sat in Padmasana, Yoga Asana, and he placed Hiranyakashipu on his lap. So he wasn't on the land or in the air, he was on the lap. And he annihilated him. Not by any weapons, by the claws. So he honored and fulfilled all the boons of Lord Brahma and came to save Prahlad. And this is spoken about by Sri Krishna in the 4th chapter. In the 4th chapter, Shloka 7 and Shloka 8, Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita references this Leela. You didn't know that? Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. Whenever there is a rise of adharma and a diminishing of dharma, at that time I come myself to reestablish dharma. And how do I do that? Paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the devotees. Vinashaya chaduskritam, to annihilate the miscreants. That's Lord Nrsingadev. What other Vishnu avatar does that describe except Lord Nrsimha? So I had just recently discovered in the wonderful commentary by Rupa Goswami called the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. It's his commentary on Sanatana Goswami's work. And he says, of all the incarnations, although I don't like the word incarnation because the word is avatar. Incarnation means having a body, a material body. Of all the avatars that come, 3 are the most important. Number 1, Krishna, Gokulananda, he's right here. Number 2, Ram, he's right here. And number 3, Lord Narasimha, he's also here on your altar. You got number 1, 2, and 3 covered. Haribol. So I never knew that Lord Nrsingadev was so important in our sampradaya. And then I found out, by speaking with my godbrother Jayadvaita Swami, who joined very, very early. And he said the first mantra that Prabhupada gave in 1966 was the Maha Mantra. But what was the second mantra he gave? I always assumed it was Panchatattva, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. It wasn't that. It wasn't the Pranam mantras either. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, wasn't that. The second mantra he gave was Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladalada Daine. That was the second mantra Prabhupada gave in ISKCON. To protect the devotees, to protect ISKCON, to help us destroy the demoniac influences that might try to stop our movement from spreading around the world. So very, very important. Lord Nrsingadev, who is an incarnation of Sri Krishna. And his wonderful thing here that Prabhupada says in the purport, he says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by his wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan. The entire material manifestation is situated in Narayan. Now we know how vast our universe is. What to speak of, there are many universes. And it's described in the Bhagavatam that as this Mahavishnu breathes out and his exhalation, from his pores come many different universes, of which our universe is one. And that exhalation takes 311 trillion years. I calculated it. And then his inhalation is another 311 trillion years. And so, can you imagine? I mean, we can't even imagine the size of Narayan. It's incomprehensible. It's achintya. That's why Lord Chaitanya has explained that our tattva is achintya beda bed tattva. It's inconceivably one and different between the Lord and the material manifestation. So everything, it's completely inconceivable. But he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so people who don't understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, in other words, the impersonal understanding. Prabhupada said the impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is simply due to lack of knowledge only. They just don't have the knowledge. There's one thing about the Mayavadis, that on the lower levels we agree with them completely, they agree with us completely. They believe in karma, they believe in reincarnation, they believe we're the spirit soul, they believe this. All the way up until you come to the Brahmajyoti, which we also accept and they also accept, but they think that's it. That's the end of it, Brahman. We just go higher, that's all. They come to a dead end there, and they think that they have the higher knowledge. It's always a fact, and I've noticed this, that people who have a lower knowledge always think they have a higher knowledge. You know, sometimes we've seen people leave ISKCON, and they go to another guru. Why do they go? To get higher knowledge. But Prabhupada's giving the highest knowledge. And what is that highest knowledge? 1866. Surrender to Krishna every step you take. But they can't do that. So they go to some other guru who gives a lower knowledge, which they can understand. They can't understand the highest knowledge, that I'm spirit soul, I'm das, 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 anudas. Every step I take, I have to surrender to Krishna. They can't understand that. So they go to another guru. He gives them a lower teaching, which they can understand. And now they think that lower teaching is a higher teaching. Because they couldn't grasp the higher teaching. Why couldn't they grasp the higher teaching? And Krishna explains why in Bhagavad Gita in 2 shlokas. Shloka 10:10 and Shloka 15:15. So in 15:15 he says, Sarvasya chaham hridi sanivishto, I'm seated in everyone's heart. And from me, within the heart, Mata smritir jnanam, from me comes remembrance. From me comes knowledge. What is that remembrance? That you're spirit soul. What is that remembrance? That you're the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. And what is the knowledge? The knowledge coming in parampara. He gives us that spiritual tattva. But when we want sense gratification, then he has 3 Shaktis, Smriti Shakti, Gyan Shakti, and Apohan Shakti, the covering Shakti. Then he covers us, so we don't remember who we are. We don't have that spiritual knowledge, and we can now go out and enjoy material energy. So the knowledge that we have, the understanding we have, we should understand it comes from Krishna. Don't ever think it comes from me. I have this realization. It's not your realization. It's Krishna's. He gave it to you. And that's another thing Prabhupada taught me. In a personal darshan that I had with him in 1976 in Vrindavan in November, So it was a very wonderful darshan, but at the very end he said, like he summed it up, "So, wherever you go and whomsoever you meet, you share with them the knowledge coming from me. You share with them. They will be benefited. You will be benefited. And in this way, by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's order, you become Guru." Then he explained that this tattva, that the knowledge, belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to anybody else. It's Krishna's knowledge. He enunciated it through to Brahma and through the parampara. Then he gave the definition of a thief. He says a thief is a person that takes the knowledge that belongs to someone else and keeps it for his own benefit. So if we take Krishna's knowledge and keep it for our own benefit, we have the mentality of a thief. Shocking. But when you take that knowledge coming in parampara and you share it with others, then you have the mentality of a sadhu. This is what Prabhupada taught us. That's why we go out. That's why we do Sankirtan. That's why we do book distribution. That's why we do prasad distribution, to share it with others. But those who go to get higher knowledge for themselves, they keep that knowledge. They're not sharing it with others. It's the mentality of a thief. So here, Narada Muni is asking about the Supreme, how he sustains everything, and Lord Brahma is answering. And then Prabhupada just says here at the end that Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and his assertion is therefore the supreme information, the supreme knowledge. So we should always take shelter of our parampara, of the books that Srila Prabhupada translated for us, and try to make Krishna number one in our life, surrender to him every step we take. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Are there any questions? Yes. So we asked questions somewhere else? Oh, okay.
So during the class, Prabhu, you mentioned how when Krishna was angry with Shishupal, then he just killed him, but with Nrsingadev, when he came, he was extremely angry.
Well, Krishna wasn't even angry.
Yeah.
Shishupal insulted him. You're just like a crow. He just pulled out his Sudarshan chakra and boom. He wasn't disturbed in the slightest. But Nrsingadev was very angry.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I understood from what you were saying. And then you mentioned how he was angry because of the fact that no one came to...
No one came to help Prahlad. Yeah. So what's your question?
So I was wondering, is that something that you've understood from hearing the pastime, or is that something that was described, specifically the fact that people that should have done something didn't do something? And I think that's
because we have to understand Lord Chaitanya's teaching. Janma sarta kori kora pora upakar. Devotional service to protect to make advancement. He said, Janma sarta kori, to perfect your life. Kora pora upakar. You work for the benefit of others. So I meditated on that. And this is my realization that Krishna gave me. If you look out in the world, every country, every city, everybody's working for their own benefit. Are their lives perfect? No, they're a mess. But the rishis, the sadhus, the acharyas, the pure devotees, they're working for the benefit of everyone else. Are their lives perfect? Yeah, there's the proof. It's so obvious. So we have to, if we want to perfect our lives, we have to work for the benefit of others. That's why we go out. That's the Sankirtan mission. So in the case of Prahlad, no one went to work to benefit him. No one put out any energy to help him. So let's say we're out on Sankirtan and some ruffian comes and tries to accost one of our lady devotees. We become like Lord Nrsingadev to protect her. If we don't, then we're in total Maya. You understand the point? Yeah. We have to protect the devotees. And Lord Nrsingadev was furious that no one tried to protect Prahlad.
Can I ask, in the same example that you just gave us now, how would we respond to a situation within a temple community where something is being done to another devotee, and that position, the person that's doing it is actually someone that's in a more senior position?
Well, look, here's the bottom line, we say in America, the Siddhanta. There's a right way and a wrong way to do anything. There's a right way to chant japa and a wrong way to chant japa. Let me give you an example. What's the wrong way to chant japa? You're sitting in front of the deities chanting japa, and a candle falls over, and the deities' clothes start to burn fire. And you're just sitting and chanting japa. That's the wrong way to chant japa. You should immediately stop and go put out the fire. So it's the same with anything. So if someone is misbehaving in the temple, there's a right way to chastise him and a wrong way to chastise him. The wrong way is to say, you're in Maya, you're bogus, and insult him, which only causes an ego fight, never works. The right way is to uplift him. My dear so-and-so, I know that you're a dedicated devotee of the Lord. You've done so much service, and I know that you haven't reached your full potential. And now I see that in this situation, you're not living up to the potential that Krishna has for you and that Prabhupada has for you. We want you to live up to your potential as a devotee. You speak to him nicely like that. If he doesn't accept it, then you have to deal with him in a different way. But at least you have to attempt to serve, because we're das anudas. If we can't help him by taking the humble position, then we'll have to take the Narasingha position, Lord Nrsingadev. But that's second. First we take the humble position. So a similar situation happened in Navadvip 500 years ago when Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur went out preaching, and Jagai and Madai didn't want to hear anything. And Madai got really upset, took a pot, threw it at Lord Nityananda, hit him and drew blood. Lord Chaitanya was furious. He came like Lord Nrsingadev, ready to annihilate the miscreants. But Nityananda said, no, my Lord, please, show them your mercy. In this form, you've come just to destroy their mentality, not their body. So, this is our first step. So then Jagai and Madai became purified. They became devotees. And I like to refer to them as Jagadananda and Madhavananda, because they're now devotees. But before they were devotees, they were miscreants. So we have to reestablish people on their path, on the correct path, as Nitya Krishna Das. But sometimes they're crazy, they can't do it. So Prabhupada behaved the same way. People may have blooped and they came back, but they spoke nonsense, and Prabhupada said, okay, I can't help you anymore, go. At a certain point, it's nothing you can do. Hopeless case. Any other points? Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Thank you so much for the class. You talked about people saying that when they have the right philosophy or they have the better philosophy, they always say that we have the higher philosophy, like that. My question is, in Krishna consciousness, if we say, we have the highest philosophy, doesn't that mean that we're also doing that? We're also guilty of that? And how do we...
Basically, everybody, in whatever group they're in, whatever school they're in, everybody thinks they have the highest truth. You have to understand that. Everybody. So for us to say we have the highest philosophy, someone else is going to say the same thing. But we understand that Krishna is giving the highest philosophy, and that we're trying to understand that. We're trying to live that. So there's 3 levels of understanding, okay? The first is called information. I'll give you an example. You first come here, you get the information, you're not the body, you're spirit soul. But it's just information. You don't really know, you don't live that you're spirit soul and you're not the body. You're still seeing everybody as bodies because you're still seeing yourself as body. So when does the information become knowledge? The information becomes knowledge when you put into practice the process of living that you're not the body, as what we're doing here. This is the process. So this process is called abhideya. This is the abhideya. And when does the knowledge become wisdom? When our every thought, our every word, and our every action is in complete consonance with the teachings of Krishna. We become living truth. So 3 steps, 3 phases, I should say, of understanding. And then we understand the highest philosophy. But you should also understand that everybody thinks they have the highest truth. The most bogus guy thinks he has the highest truth. It's just the fact of life in the material world, you know. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.